Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'd like to give a bit of a recap on my gaming 2022, a little bit of a look back on the games that I finished last year, or at least got a good dive into and really enjoyed playing through, or just reliving the experience of certain or older games. These are in no particular order. I'm going to have no editing done at all with this. We're just going to kind of go with it through how I beat games throughout the year. So I began the beginning of the year with the horror title Fatal Frame 2 for the PlayStation 2. I planned on playing this in October and November, but it led all the way into the new year. I did finish it. I did a completion run. This game was excellent for the bit of age that it is. I also own Fatal Frame 1 and 3, and 1 seemed a little bland about the horror and the mystery behind it, but 2 really ramped up the horror with multiple enemies and having the multiple snapshots and getting in really close with the enemies. Like I said, I did beat it the beginning of last year, so I'm a little bit fuzzy on it, but I remember quite a few of the enemies being challenging and a good couple of jump scares every now and then. I did play it on my old CRT TV, which was only a 21-inch no-name brand TV, and it was still fun. It was still really good, but I really wonder how it would keep up with the new 34-inch Sony Trinitron that I've got in the room. Next on the list that I got into was Dying Light. I really like these kind of first-person zombie games, going around hacking and slashing at them. But this was really good. This was a really big city with lots to explore, a day and night system, and lots of different kind of zombies to beat up and scavenge from as well. Creating the loot and getting him throughout the city and all the people's problems and understanding like the different factions and what was exactly going on within the city. Really would recommend Dying Light. It was a lot of fun. I'm not going to be very good at reviewing the full game or who they were about. This was at the beginning of last year as well. During last year, my family and I got COVID at home, but I didn't get any of the symptoms. So I was feeling okay, and the rest of the family I was kind of just taking care of here. And in the meantime, where they kind of just isolated and I got to isolate down in the game room, I did a full playthrough of the game Hades. I always heard lots of great things, and you can see that I got the Game of the Year edition. And this game was phenomenal to play through. It instantly got addicting, how you rinsed and repeated, but you were able to keep some of the materials to upgrade for future runs. The way that this game was built to play, its addictive replay value, the different customizable weapons that you got to choose from before going into combat or doing a run, getting yourself prepared. This game was a lot of fun. The bosses were really good. The combat was so fluid, especially when it was either close combat or ranged combat. They did an excellent job at developing this game. I would recommend this game to anybody who likes that kind of replay value. It's almost like a dungeon diving game where you're kind of doing replays of runs. This was one of the top games that I played that year. Soon after, I decided to go back to something really old. Something that I had never beat before was an old Metroid game. And Metroid Prime, I thought, was right up my alley. And I enjoyed the combat. I enjoyed all of the areas to go into. It was interesting where each section of the game had its own feeling. And everywhere you had its own setting, had its own distinct creatures and monsters, and you had to repeat going through those sections again and again with the new upgraded abilities that Samus got on her adventure. Something I really didn't like about this game was the Chozo artifacts. Having the very cryptic things to go collect throughout the game to combat what is it, Mega Ridley at the end, and then go down into the planet. I wasn't big on trying to search the world, like the world hub, with these very cryptic little clues of where they could be. If I had that as a kid and I thought that I played through the whole game and then found out right after you have to go back into the hub world to go find them, I don't think I would have been as interested. It wouldn't have kept me to completing the game. But with today and YouTube and guides, I played the whole game without looking at anything up until that point. When I hit that point and it gave me very cryptic, very... Metroid fans are going to love it, but I wasn't a big fan of it. I picked this game up years and years ago, and my old sticker from EB Games, we have EB Games in Canada. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but it says $29.99. And I don't know if anybody else is quite like this, but I always keep the receipts within the cart, the case as well. That goes for usually any game that I buy, whether it's brand new or pre-owned. Sometimes if I buy, if I buy a bundle of games, like I got Dying Light, the receipts in there as well. It's always funny to look back on some games that you paid very little for and go up in price years and years later. But Metroid Prime was a lot of fun. Yeah, when did I buy it? When was the date here? 03, 06, 04. I bought it in 2004. So, from a gentleman named Troy. In the Woodland Hills, Yonge Street, Newmarket. I think that EB Games is actually closed. The EB Games in Canada has now also changed over to GameStop. But yeah, it's always interesting reading the receipts on some of these. Nonetheless, fantastic game. I think I'm going to go with a 2D Metroid the next time. We're going to get that in a little bit. I got on a little bit of a GameCube kick after that. I tried to load up my copy of Super Smash Bros. Melee, as for the past 3 years or so, I've been really watching the competitive scene and really loving the combat and mechanics and the deep dive mechanics of the game, the movement, the gameplay. I've really been enjoying it. So I've been getting controllers, I've been doing the research, but when I finally plugged this back in, I had no memory file of all the characters and all the stages. So I did another playthrough of Super Smash Bros. Melee and then really started enjoying the game after I unlocked everything. Of course, this is a timeless classic GameCube game, greatest selling game on the GameCube. Really enjoy this. Always have this playing when I have people over. And yeah, I think it could become part of my top 10 games. I think it might sit right at number 10 though, where there's a lot of other games that are good to just replay out on your own. This is kind of a pick me up unless you have friends and family or acquaintances over that enjoy playing something like that. Another franchise that I didn't really get into other than Metroid was Five Nights at Freddy's. And I did get this for Christmas the year before, but didn't crack into it until last year. And I never had played it. And I know it had been out for years, as this is the collection where it has 1 through 4. And there is more Five Nights at Freddy's soon after this. I know that the series just keeps going and they keep making them, but I played through the first one and it was great. It was so much fun. I never really watched any of those live streams that were going on or anything. I've had a really busy work life and then family balance, and didn't get a whole lot of time for gaming last year and the past couple of years. But I've changed my job. I have more free time on my hands. Money isn't so much of I'm trying to go get it. I have all that I really need. I'm kind of settled. And I'm going to start trying to enjoy a few more things. Maybe make some more content for whoever likes to watch. But nonetheless, Five Nights at Freddy's, I completed the first one, and it was a joy. It was the perfect little scare tactic where you were shut in the little observer's room, the janitor room, or the surveillance room, and you had such small amount of power to fight back against the creatures. This was an excellent game to pick up, and the collection now is maybe $30. So if you haven't tried it, this is an easy way to get into this series, and even starting with the first game is a load of fun. Then we move on to the game of the year. Game of the year last year was Elden Ring. I picked this up day one, and I think I'm only halfway through it. Like I said, life got really busy for me, and I kind of, you know, in these Soulsborne games, when you put it down for a week, 2 weeks, kind of gets to 3 weeks, you quite don't remember what you were doing. There's not many NPCs to follow up on. The quests are kind of and then the game mechanics are tough to pick back up. I do plan on getting back to this. Before the internet took over and decided what the best builds were, I did decide to go with the dexterity blood bleed, or the blood build, the one that builds up as you swing and then does the enormous amount of damage. I never really chose that type of dexterity character before, and I really decided to go with it this time. Where I beat Dark Souls, I used magic, where in Demon Souls, I was using magic. I decided to make a mage-like character to fight in a distance and give myself buffs. And then in the Dark Souls games, I was going more of a combat heavy with heavy armor. But this one, I decided to go with a dexterity build, just to find out that the internet agreed that it became a broken build with like the wizard or the intelligence class. This deserved game of the year. I haven't completed it. I haven't looked up all the bosses. I haven't looked up anything, so I want to keep myself surprised for the game. But this deserved to be game of the year. It is so well done. The imagery, the music, the combat, the decisions that you can make, the art style, everything, how fluid it is. This is one of, if not their best games that they've ever made. And I am a huge Bloodborne fan. I don't know all the lore of Bloodborne, but I got a platinum when Bloodborne came out because I loved playing it so much. So I was really impressed with Elden Ring. Now, its runner-up, God of War Ragnarok. What can you say that hasn't been said already about God of War Ragnarok? I would not deem this as a perfect game, and there's only one reason why. For majority of the game, Kratos to me was clunky. The combat is fluid, but Kratos is clunky. Getting his frame perfect shield ups, getting his parries out in time, there is a big learning curve to it. And the game is intentional with it. The thing is I thought I was more on point than the game was giving me. I thought it would give me a bit more lenience, but it wasn't. But between rollouts to shield, I wasn't getting those frames that I thought I deserved I was getting. There was no latency with my PS5 to the TV. I'm not too sure what the problem was, but I guess it was me. I just felt like Kratos was a bit clunky until much later in the game, where way more abilities are accessible and you can start comboing more fluidly, and then you can slow down, do the rift time, and then you can really bridge through it. But I did think there was a good portion of the game where he was a little bit too clunky. Going from the games of the year, where they got critical acclaim across the board, runners up for games of the year, is a game that people seem to hate. And I only understood why after I beat it. That was Callisto Protocol. I got this game for my birthday from a family member, and I haven't played Dead Space. So I'm going to get Dead Space for the PlayStation 5 and do a playthrough of it. I didn't own a PlayStation 3 for all that's here. I was going to college at the time. My Xbox 360 got the red ring of death the day that I got my PlayStation 4, and it knew it was getting replaced. But nonetheless, I thought Callisto Protocol did a really good job at setting atmosphere and really getting the close and gritty monsters up in your face, where you can't just always run. You can't always just duck behind a corner and pump them full of shells. This got you and them face to face no matter what. The variety in creatures playing the game seemed great. Looking back after I've beaten this entire game, knowing that there is only 3 or 4 serious types of monsters, where there is the close combat, the ranged, and then the action button type monsters. And then there's the mini boss and final boss that kind of have the runaround effect where you can shoot and evade. Callisto Protocol really kept me going in the game, and it really only opens up in the last quarter for story. It's mainly just Jacob just trying to escape, right? Trying to escape Black Prison, Black Iron. Really good. I had a lot of fun, honestly. I think I put about 10 hours into it, really tried to explore the world as much as I could, and I really enjoyed it. It had me hooked right away from beginning to end. I'm glad it was a short game, and I'm glad they didn't make this like a 20-hour game where emphasis so much was on hand-to-hand combat. Another big gripe that I had with it was that the gun options near the end of the game really open up. There's a short-range shotgun, there's an assault rifle, there's multiple weapons to try to get, like the riot shotgun, but there's not enough money in a playthrough to try every gun or max out every weapon. I did a full playthrough and I maxed out the gravity hand, the melee weapon, and the pistol. That was it. No, neither of the 2 shotguns or the assault rifle. Didn't even buy the assault rifle. That part was a bit of a shame to me, where they didn't put enough money obtainable in the game to purchase these products. I thought something that was really cool was when you were altering the gun. Maybe this is something in Dead Space because I haven't played it. I don't understand yet. But the altering the gun mechanic, how he puts it in almost into a 3D printer, puts the money in, and the gun develops. That was a really cool tweak there. And then I ended the game with my current run of Pikmin 1 for the GameCube. Again, I've been going on a GameCube kick, and Pikmin 1 was a really good way to end the year off. It's always full of joy, it's a lot of fun to play, and it's simple. There's not a huge amount to it. You're just Olimar landing and crashing on the planet and trying to beat your best time at getting Olimar off the planet. It's got such good vibes, vibrant in color, wonderful music, and great little monsters for you to beat up along the way. It's an instant classic for me. I don't know if it makes my top 10 for my all-time video games. It might get in there, but I'm not sure. Narrowing video games down to a top 10 is really, really hard. Things that I also completed or played this year, I don't have a physical copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. I bought it digitally for my Switch once the game came out. I had a few friends over and we had a blast kicking through it. It had that perfect vibe of the old Ninja Turtle beat 'em up games. Super vibrant in color, excellent game, but then they said that it was going to take over a year to make a physical release of the game. And then they made the big box edition and stuff like that. And it came out so much sooner than expected, months after the game came out. And I see it on the shelves now, and I'm almost kicking myself. I wish I had a physical edition to go on the shelf there, but I digress. I wanted it then, and I played it right then and there. Another Ninja Turtle game that I played was my arcade cabinet. I had a few barbecues during the middle of the year this year. I live in Canada, so beginning of the year and end of the year, just winter. You can't do too much. When I had people over, I had a couple friends play on the the 1-Up arcade cabinet, and we played through both of the Ninja Turtle games and had a blast. The arcade console for 4 adults is a little bit tight, but with 3, it was great. The 4th one jumped in. It was a little crammed, but we all had a lot of fun. Both playthroughs of the game, really a good joy, good blast to the past. With the arcade, the 1-Up arcade, you're allowed to have like unlimited lives. You can just keep pumping them in, and you and your friends can just complete the game. So looking forward into this year, I think I'm going to be able to manage a bit more of my time. And I think from here, I'm going to try to choose when I'm going to play instead of waiting for stuff to come out. So I'm going to be currently working on something and then always going back and revising. And then as something comes out, I'll be able to make time to actually play through a full playthrough of it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a live stream on YouTube. I'm going to give it a try. I'm just going to do my best and see how it goes. But I got a few games for the Boxing Day week, and one of those games was The Quarry. Now, I have Until Dawn, and I almost got one playthrough through it, but The Quarry seemed to strike out to me a little bit more, where it's even more horrific, but I thought in Until Dawn they looked a little cartoony. There was just a little bit of this cartoon edge to them, and only seeing just the backsides of the game here and the front face, the characters look very distinct from one another, and as they do look like a bunch of like teenagers down by the quarry probably, I'm very excited to give this a playthrough. I don't know if I'm going to try to record this and see what my decisions bring. I think that would be really interesting, but nonetheless, this was a buy 2 for $40, so it ended up being a $20 game. The other game that I picked up was Dragon Quest Builders 2 for the PlayStation 4 as well. That game was always really expensive for a very long time, and that deal had it very, very cheap. Another game that I'd like to play through is another type of horror game. Actually, I have almost all horror games in the lineup for this year. I'd really like to do a full playthrough of Resident Evil 1, and I think I'm going to do it on my collector's edition for the PlayStation 4. I heard that this remake is very, very well done for the Resident Evil 1 game. I've gotten platinums on the Resident Evil 2 remake, the Resident Evil 3 remake, the Resident Evil 4 for PlayStation 4. I have a sealed copy of Resident Evil 5 for PlayStation 4. It didn't touch much of Resident Evil 6 like nobody should. Platinum to Resident Evil 7, and then I got a platinum for Resident Evil 8 Village. I'd really like to go through Resident Evil 1 for a full time. I do not own it on PlayStation 1. I had it at one point. I got rid of all my older Resident Evil games so I could come up with these ones. Nonetheless, I think I'm going to do a playthrough. I know it's kind of a shorter game, but I'd like to go back to the basics before Resident Evil 4 Remake comes out and just kind of go through a playthrough. See if I really like it or not. Some more horror games that are a bit more sought after that I own. I own both of these, but I haven't played either of them. It's Silent Hill 1 for the PlayStation 1, Silent Hill 2 for the PlayStation 2. Now, I'm not sure which one to start with. Silent Hill 2, people say, is phenomenal. They can just play it. It's a standalone game. But Silent Hill 1 gave it that atmosphere right off the bat. Maybe I'll do it back to back. I do understand they could be they're shorter games, right? So I could play Silent Hill 1 and then go right into Silent Hill 2, and maybe that way, if they run the same kind of way, I'm kind of fluid with it with a couple hours in. The last game, other than going back to Elden Ring, that I think I might get through this year was something that I did pick up last year with my GameCube kick, and that is Star Fox Adventures. A lot of people have a lot of love or a lot of hate for this game, and I think I'm going to try it and find out why. I also got in a bundle recently the Star Fox Adventures Guidebook. So we are going to try to do a playthrough of this with a guide by our side. I love these old guidebooks. They have such great detail. The maps are brilliant, and I understand that there's a lot of knowledge online to go with, but these guides are just so good. The colors are vibrant, it's well detailed, it's an official strategy guide, and it tells you probably most of the things you're looking for, especially if you get stuck. Nonetheless, I have liked Star Fox for a long time, but this is one of those games where he's down on the ground, baiting stuff up with what looks to be some kind of electric staff or spear. So I think that'll be quite interesting. The last options that I've got is I thought about playing a 2D adventure game, and I couldn't decide on which one I'd like to go through. I might make this into a clip or something, but I'd like to either make a full playthrough of Super Mario World, A Link to the Past, or Super Metroid. Now, I know that I said that I didn't like Metroid Prime all that much in the last quarter, but I've played some of Metroid Prime, and the 2D versions of Metroid is fluid and fantastic. Maybe I didn't like it that much because it was their first time going into 3D. The fan people are going to hate me for saying that. But the 2D Metroids are phenomenal, and they are a ton of fun. I think I own almost all of them, and I've played through only a bit of a handful of them. Metroid Prime was my first one to beat, and maybe Super Metroid is the second. Anyways, I'd like to just give you guys a bit of a recap on my gaming experience in the last year, what I'm looking forward to in the next year. I'm also looking forward to the Resident Evil 4 remake, Dead Space remake, Octopath Traveler 2, The Legend of Zelda, the new one that's coming out, probably in the summer or fall of this year. Tears of a Kingdom, something like that. I might pick up a couple more GameCube games while I'm still out and about. I looked at Godzilla Melee, Destroy All Monsters Melee. That looks like a fun little bit of a party game. But yeah, this is kind of where I'm at for the year, and I think it was a good look back. Thanks very much if you've tuned in all the way. Thank you.